All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. And I have a special guest tonight, and that's Miss Jackie Johnson of Profile Africa. And tonight's topic is Africa is winning, don't be left behind. So, me and Jackie were always strategizing, always chopping it up in regards to, I guess, how we can take advantage of the coming opportunities in Africa. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah.
That sounds right?
I think so.
Right. And, obviously when we have these conversations, there are people who are naysayers. And so we always, have these discussions to kind of to set the record straight with those who are being very, I guess, negative or pessimistic towards Africa. And, as I was telling Jackie before we came on, Africa's going to win with or without you. So, Miss Johnson, go ahead and take it away. Introduce yourself. And
hey, everybody. So nice to be back with you via Dynasty Mirror and Search for Uhuru. And I'm really excited to just share that I promise, guys, if you could just take a small step towards looking at Africa, you will never look back. So many amazing things are going on right now on the continent. Great business opportunities for small and large investors. The dollar is very strong in certain countries, particularly South Africa. I'm always going to talk about South Africa as one of the top 5, at least, for investing and looking at business opportunities and even relocating if that's your future plan. But with the dollar being so strong in markets like South Africa, I just did this calculation for someone yesterday, Dinus, to share with them that, are you aware that, and I'm just going to even lowball it because today the rand is 14.35 to the dollar.
right.
But yesterday, just to stay conservative, I did this just at 14 rands to the dollar. So it only takes 7,136 US dollars, I believe,
Wow.
to make 100,000 rands, to make up 100,000 rands.
Right.
And 100,000 rands can take you nearly as far as $100,000 will.
Right.
But you're only spending a little over $7,000 to have 100,000 rands. So when you look at 401k savings, when you look at even what people spend for Christmas, some people actually spend $7,000 on Christmas gifts. And when you look at what we spend on holidays and birthdays and shopping sprees, individual shopping sprees, you could be making so much more progress than being a consumer.
Right.
By taking control of your future and charting a great course to build economic wealth and generational prosperity. And you certainly will be able to do that more and faster using your dollars in strategic ways in Africa than what you would be able to do primarily here in the U.S. Also, newsflash, the U.S. market will crash.
Right. You think so?
It's going to crash before 2020, I think. It's good to kind of jump in and out and make money, but it's no way to actually build your future. So I think where the dollar is going, even in America, and where the stock market is going in America, you shouldn't be putting all your eggs in one basket, clearly. So it's so good to be back on. We're going to talk a little bit before we get into business and what's all going on in Africa. I want to even do a little mini interview of Dinus and talk about his last trip to Africa, to Senegal. And where else?
Just went to Senegal this time. I just went to Senegal this last time. Just went to Senegal.
And all the amazing food and the beautiful women.
Oh yeah. And guys, hit the like button as you come to the chat room, please. Please hit the like button.
Yeah, and I want to hear about how well this was one of your major trips that occurred during another major event in your life. And every time we go to Africa,
what was the major event in my life?
You left your job.
Oh yeah. Everybody, I left corporate America, so I'm no longer on the plantation, as they say. I left corporate America, so right before I left.
Yeah, and so I always say that Africa gives everyone a prevailing message, no matter who or what you are.
Right.
So every time I go, I get a message. Every time you go, I'm sure you get a message. What was the most pronounced thing for you on this trip?
You know what? The most pronounced thing for me was knowing that when I came back from my trip, that I wasn't going to go to work.
Wow.
That's like, it really hit me that when I landed, which was like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I did not have to go to work on Thursday. Like, I wasn't going back to my job on that Thursday. That's what hit me.
So was that kind of either a reality check, wake up call, scary, awesome?
It wasn't scary because, you know, I have some money saved up, so I'm okay. But it was like reality, like I'm not going to work on that Thursday.
I know for me, when I was transitioning out of traditional work environments, be it from corporate America to being an American entrepreneur, and going on to becoming an aspiring African entrepreneur at the time, 13 years ago, I had some wake up calls. But the thing was, I don't think I was ever scared. I was always extremely excited, and mainly because I felt I had control over my destiny.
And, right, that too.
And that you don't always feel that way in corporate America or when you work for anyone, for that matter, unless you're in partnership or you're working on something that really shapes your life future or defines your destiny. And so for me, I always felt good that I'm in control to a certain degree of what happens next. And that felt very empowering also because I'm working in such an amazing marketplace, the African continent, where growth is happening every step we make. And so that gives you a bit more of a sense of security that what you're working on can actually take on life and become amazing. That you're more in control of it being able to take on life and being amazing.
Shout out to James Pope. You're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Real quick, Jackie, how is Africa winning? Can we segue into that? Or okay.
Yeah, definitely.
How is Africa winning?
Africa is winning by having sustainable growth opportunities because business never needs to be fly by night. It needs to always be sustainable. And just with the various industries just getting fire, so to speak, in Africa, and growing with millennials is really, really important. That ensures ongoing business and a very strong trajectory towards success. And I think that that's one way, just the expansion of the middle class, the sustainability of middle class Africa, and then just the continual population growth around millennials and them becoming educated entrepreneurs and them being able to do regional business, keeping intra-Africa trade alive and well. So those are a few ways.
Let me give a special shout out to Minister Jacque at the Pulpit Podcast. Now, thank you so much for the super chat. Now, Minister Jacque is a naysayer or very pessimistic when it comes to, I guess, the relationship between Africans and African Americans. Would you like to give some words of encouragement?
Okay, but why are they naysayers in general? What are they saying?
He thinks that Africa isn't really messing with the descendants of the slave trade as far as engagement.
Not true. Not true.
Okay.
Well, I do want to tell you some good news around that.
Go ahead.
One reason why that's not true is because on May 25th, 2012, the African Union and the Pan-African Parliament declared the entire African diaspora as the sixth region of the continent of Africa. And that's really big news, mainly because it's accepting us. It's a call to Africans in the diaspora worldwide to say, come home, we love you, we need you, we want you, we receive you. And so that's the number one reason why that's not true. And then the second reason why that's not true is because of the relationships we have with so many African people. I often tell people that when I see an African person anywhere, be it in America or around the world or in Africa, I instantly feel like that person is a relative of mine, or that we know each other.
Okay.
Even more so than I would meet a stranger in an African American. Oftentimes I'll meet an African American in passing, and I may not have a conversation with them or warm up to them, but when I meet an African person, I instantly feel like there's some camaraderie. There's some things that we know and have in common, mainly because of my time in Africa, and that they're going to be receiving of me. I've never been rejected by an African person when I would extend myself. I received so much love. So I think maybe he needs to come and hang out with us sometime and definitely get away from that thing.
Hey, Jap, you got a passport now. So whenever you're ready to go to Africa with us, you just let us know.
That's right. And you don't even need a visa to come to many of the countries. So
you just let us know. You can go to Senegal. Get on the plane
and come with us to Senegal, South Africa, and many other countries on the continent. They really do love us. And that's the misnomer. Because that was the thing I learned when I was basically in South Africa full time, was how much the African market looks to African Americans for so many things, from fashion to culture to music, and so as well as acting. And they see us more on television than we see them. So they idolize the idea of coming to America, literally coming to America. Oh, which, by the way, that movie's going to be done again.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Arsenio Hall announced that on Halloween because he was hosting the talk Halloween costume competition. And he did say that he and Eddie Murphy are going to do Coming, and he said it's going to be called Coming to the number 2 America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. My favorite movie of all time. But anyway, a lot of African people, I know this sounds weird, and please, guys, I know you didn't say this, but I'm just telling you what was said to me several times in Africa by Africans. Several times they've said to me they wish they had been captured in boats and brought to America to be slaves so that they could have an opportunity to live in America.
Wow.
I've heard that several times. Okay,
so let me ask you this. Now, when they say that, and we're trying to convince Black Americans to take more interest in Africa, but when you hear an African saying they wish they were over here,
what is that about?
Yeah, what is that about?
It's mainly about, and this was 13 years ago. Let me preface by saying that I don't think they would say that today because our worlds have kind of come together a lot via social media.
Right.
But back then at the time, what they were, I would say, being not envious, but admiring and wanting to experience was the life they thought we had as African Americans. It was very early on, before the heighten of all this racial profiling and things that we do experience today. But they were just also looking at an opportunity, feeling like they could come over here and get their lives on go and be able to work. And as many Africans are here working and sending money back home to the tune of $50 billion a year. Are we sending money to Africa to help sustain families and keep lives going and intact there? So I got it, what they meant then. And then also bear in mind, the people who were saying that to me 13 years ago were South Africans who were still extremely traumatized by apartheid. Because when I first went there in 2005, they were only celebrating their 10-year anniversary of their 10th year of liberation as a free nation. So they were a baby nation back then in 2005, only 10 years. So a lot had to yet still happen. They were still healing and just trying to find their feet. after coming through such a horrendous experience. So that's what that was about.
All right.
But they do love us, and we do obviously love them. I just think that more of that real message has to get put out and come across to people.
Real quick, so to segue a little bit.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about the construction boom in Angola? No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Do you want to speak
yeah,
on that?
Yeah. I mean, well, here's the deal. There's a plan to build Africa from Cape to Cairo.
There's like a road or a railway or something.
Not only a railway, but the development
Okay.
node of Africa is designed to create growth and economic transformation from Cape to Cairo. So everything in between Cape to Cairo is under development and construction. And so Angola, given its wealth, with oil, diamonds, etc., has a huge capacity, just like South Africa, to grow and be built to kingdom come. So that's exactly what's happening there. And the reason why cement and anything around construction and development, and hey, these are good opportunities for business too, in terms of import export. And being a part of the supply chain management of Africa's growth from one side of the continent to the other. And so, yeah, it's very prominent and very lucrative in that particular industry right now. Even in South Africa, I mean, you almost can't begin to understand the growth in real estate development, but I would say that that's all over the continent as well. In the next 5 years, 5 to 7 years, that will be one of the #1 sectors driving growth and development in the continent.
Now, the don't be left behind part. Like, how can you be left behind if you're not on the, I guess, Africa is winning train?
Yeah, if you're not, I always say to my clients that if you don't have an Africa plan and a millennial plan, you stand a very good chance of not being in business 10 years from now.
And when you say your clients, like, what are your clients involved in? Like
any industry, it doesn't matter. You need an Africa plan in your business, even if you are a U.S.-based company.
Oh, really?
You need an Africa plan and a millennial plan. And your millennial plan, because millennials are global thinkers, many of them are. They weren't born and experienced some of the things that older generations have. So they're out there looking across borders. You know, I have several clients that are under the age of 35 that have money and want to start looking at Africa or are already engaged in Africa, from development opportunities to hair salons to being a part of construction and taking risk around good calculating strategic risk around building mixed use properties. That's becoming popular as well. A lot of times things that we've seen happen well here, if you go to Africa, and I'm sure you can attest to it, you'll see where that same model of development can go even bigger, better, banging it in Africa, mainly because of the population growth and because if it's a new concept, they're going to eat it up. And so it's important to take a look at what new ideas you have, even for doing your own business in Africa differently than what you've done it here. Maybe there's some niche pockets that you missed out on here in the US. It doesn't mean that you don't have those same opportunities to engage that same idea and strategy on the African continent.
All right, we have 231 people watching, only 61 likes. Let's hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Now, you mentioned, you know, your clients developing an African, I guess, strategy. Now, I noticed Aliko Dagante is he's marketing here in America. He's running ads on CNN. What are your thoughts on that? If he already has the African market, why even worry about America? Do you?
Well, because a lot of times you want good strategic alliance partners, and you want to continue expanding and keeping an eye on cost and risk, because the way, I mean, Aleko's been out there for a long time. I remember his name in the 80s.
Wow.
Before I ever set foot on the African soil, before I ever knew anything about Africa, he was killing it back then in the late 80s. And so he's been at it for a long time. And one of the attributes to his wealth is that he came into Africa to supply Africa what it needed most: rice, corn, meal, flour, sugar, and then cement in the construction development boom, which is existing right now today. And so you know what? That's a great question about why is he looking abroad to other places? Because nobody grows Africa by themselves. I don't care if you're the richest guy. He's the richest Black guy in the world. I want Africa to correct this, because they keep saying he's the richest Black man in Africa, but he's the richest Black man in the world. And so, but yet he spends a lot of time in foreign markets.
And they're saying he's richer. I mean, of course they have his worth on Forbes, but he's saying he's richer than that.
He is probably. Yeah. Most of those guys are richer than
on Forbes. Yeah, it was on paper. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just saying that he's grown by supplying the greatest needs that the continent had, and then through good strategic partnership alliances. And that's my thing. You know, as much as Africa is not America, you cannot scale and scale through Africa single-handedly.
Right.
Even with all the money in the world, you still can't achieve market success alone. And so I always say to people that we are stronger together than we are apart. And there are good strategic alliance partners that we should pursue just to sustain growth and to take greater advantage of the opportunities that we have. Because there's a certain amount that you can do. But then if you have good partners that come and fill in gaps and bring other capitals that you need besides even money, but intellectual capital and human capital, now collectively we're all able to go after bigger things. Thus we win together. So that's how also Africa is winning, because Africa is uniting. And if you're not uniting, you will be left behind. And we have less than 50 days left in the 2018. And then we have less than 18 months to 2020.
Yeah.
And any wise business person should be focusing next year on positioning themselves, tweaking their brand, and looking at how to really engage in business in Africa. Because when 2020 hits and 5G becomes more prominent, it's going to cost more money to expand your brand in Africa, and more money to engage. And because for every key person that goes to Africa and their eyes become open to opportunities, takes away now from your opportunity.
True.
100%. And if they have more money, more power, more influence, more know-how than you, then it becomes a vastly competitive market that becomes more expensive to engage in, because it's no longer sleeping. People are wide awake in Africa and taking on opportunities and taking risks and investing in the future of where Africa is going.
Shout out to Junk Power Video. Takes a little effort to talk about Africa, but it takes a lot to actually get up and go to Africa and take in the experience of its people, rather than going there to experience a meaningless safari.
Absolutely. 100,000%. I need to say that in my South African accent. 100,000%. And that's true, because you know what? I hope that we actually, because this is like a clarion call tonight, but I actually hope that we provoke people to go to Africa.
And that's you too, Jacque.
Yeah,
That's you too, Jacque.
I hope we
You
get
got your
people
passport now,
riled
Jacque.
up
You need to go.
and even afraid that if they don't go to Africa, they're going to be left behind of the next global economic boom. I mean, I can only keep trying to tell you what is going to happen 2020 and beyond until 2020 gets here. And if you're not ready, then it's just simple. You will be left behind. And so it's easier to engage in a market
My bad. I'm sorry.
when it's not as competitively engaged as it will be. But there's some big players starting to go to Africa, and it's not going to take them long to really break some barriers and create some unique opportunities that then now is going to make your attempt even that much harder. So it's better to try and look at what can you do in 2019 to sharpen your blade and to ready yourself to actually do business successfully in Africa. And if you don't get started in 2019, it's going to be extremely difficult and more expensive to engage that market come 2020.
Shout out to Dale Alusisi. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. You are the Black Star Line, bro. Thank you. I received that. And with that being said, people who super chat, I don't care how much you super chat, you'll get a postcard. Okay. So just email me, search for huru@gmail.com. Email me your full address and I will send you a postcard for super chatting. I appreciate it. Now, everyone brings up China when we have these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
So is China in the way of people like me and you who want to get involved? Should people consider China a threat? And then also they have that story where China's opening up police stations in South Africa. Is there any truth to that?
I'm investigating that right now.
Okay.
And when I find out affirmatively, I'll let you know, and maybe we'll do even just a quick chat or something just to really talk to people about that, because I heard that as well. I know they've done so in Zambia due to some debt that Zambia owed China. Then they literally came through and took over Zambia's military completely.
Are you serious?
Yeah, completely.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. So Zambia's military is Chinese.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. That happened about 3 weeks, about a month or so ago. You might have been
I need to. In fact, I'm
trip.
gonna look. So, can you go into detail about China and Africa?
And so, again, China made its biggest progress in Africa when George W. Bush was president. When we were managing Iran and Iraq wars, China was going to Africa, cutting big 30, 50, 100-year trade deals with the continent. And by the time America began to slightly wake up in terms of understanding what China had done, that only occurred during the Obama administration. And by that time, China's trade with Africa was here and America was here.
Right.
And so part of this trade arrangement, and then keep in mind, China is a part of some of these growth clusters like BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And so that creates another kind of economic alliance between South Africa and China, and even Russia for that matter.
Right.
And so these long and deep and wide trade relationships are many, many years, like generations, to up to 100 years. And so I think some of the terms were not good that is allowing something like what's happening in Zambia to actually take place. That I doubt if they would cut those same kind of deals today, because they're all the better and wiser. Right. But back then, and prior to the George Bush administration on back to the Clinton administration, Africa was definitely making these kind of headways, or I should say China was making these kind of headways with Africa. And so any kind of faltering of these deals can not always end up good. But yeah, China is very much into infiltrating Africa. You go there and you see so many Chinese people that you almost confuse where you are sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends on what industry you're in, you know, in terms of whether or not China is in your way or not. It just depends.
Okay. Somebody said China is, I mean, Africa is like a pretty woman. Everyone wants a shot at her. But why is everyone excited about Africa except for Black Americans? I mean, there are some Black Americans who are,
but not like us conclusively.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're still breaking down the centuries of disconnect that existed between us from slavery. These other countries and cultures and nations don't have that history with Africa. They were either their oppressor through colonization or economic partner. You know,
real quick, somebody said the port of Mombasa is up for sale. I'm gonna look that up, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So that's our issue, that generational curse that slavery brought between us is why. And keep in mind, for hundreds of years during slavery, we were taught not to think about Africa, not to talk about Africa, and to even be afraid of Africa. And that got passed on generationally way after slavery ended, because the outcomes of thinking and caring and wanting to go to Africa were so horrific. You know, hands, feet being chopped off, hung, sold off the plantation away from the family you begin to know by being on the same slave ship with those people, same people, you know. So it's gonna take what we're doing to begin to break down those silos and heal the centuries of disconnect that exists between Africa and her African American diaspora. You know, I think it's a big deal. Personally, I don't like for people to call me Black American, because I'm not just a Black person living in America. If everybody else can be Latin American, Asian American, Hispanic American, French American, all that, then why can't I be African American?
Right.
And at least pay honor and homage to where I know I came from. And so I think that we need to keep working on things like that. And just keep telling the right story, you know, change the narrative and be a part of change making for Africa.
Somebody said, what can Black Americans do about China? I mean, obviously, I don't think we have the resources like China, but what can we do?
I say work together. Again, we are stronger together than we are apart. Speaking of China, about a month or so ago, I was at a meeting in the lobby of the Marriott Marquis in Washington, D.C. And I was waiting on the people to come, and had an opportunity to talk with an Asian woman who happened to be sitting there waiting on her husband, who was attending a conference. And we got to talking, and she told me, I said, I'm interested to know, how come Chinese people or Asian people really get into African American culture? And, you know, like they own all the weave shops where all the hair and the Black beauty products are. She told me that it is their culture to study other cultures and see what they like and need so that they can make money.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
You're smart.
And it's like, but we give them the opportunity to study our culture without us paying attention to our own culture.
Right.
Where we should be making that money and not giving it away to people on the outside.
Right.
But I thought that that was interesting that she said that is how their society is raised and shaped, because I also noticed in DC and other places where these massive groups of Asian people are together, students, and they're studying our culture. They're looking at the museums and our history and everything about America.
Right.
And I wonder, are groups of Americans in China doing the same thing?
I would think so.
Well, I would hope
probably
so.
white Americans.
But somebody from here needs to be over there understanding their story, like they're over here in America trying to understand ours. So I just thought that that is a part of how they conquer, you know, how they're able to supply things and build massive millions and billions of dollars behind doing it, because we are consuming mostly everything that China brings into the country. We are their number one consumer. No other culture is, but African Americans are.
All right, people, we have 313 people watching, only 136 likes. Please hit that like button as you come to the chat room. Aunt Karan wants to know, how do we give, how do we give our American, here we go. How do we give our black dollars to Africa from America?
I would say by doing good business in Africa, looking at what they supply, what they supply and export to the United States, or how we go and partner, look at partnership opportunities. It just depends on when you say spend our black dollars, in what category, in what area. I would say the first thing to do is to go to Africa and see it, and see what they have in supply that we would enjoy, or what they would enjoy in their immediate community, because we can supply them things and they can supply us things. Their art and their culture, their cultural jewelry to fashion. I think we spend quite a bit of money today on African fashion. Right. It's growing by leaps and bounds. And there's some people in social media that have really taken this thing by storm and shown us the beauty of Africa's culture through fashion, thus then sell those items that people buy in abundance. So I say buy beautiful African products for starters, and then go see Africa and find yourself in a space that you would like to import, export, or partner with someone.
Actually, I will shout out to I do have a PayPal. Let me put it in the I'll put it in the link. I mean in the chat. I will be back in Africa next month, Ghana and Nigeria. Let's see here what else we had here. Israel. What are your thoughts on Israel wanting to join the African Union? Have you followed that at all? Or?
I don't really have a particular opinion on Israel just yet, because it's still having some challenges itself. And I think that we need to let it pan out a little bit more. I don't know, is the African Union ready to receive Israel?
Why would they even consider receiving Israel? It's Israel. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say that they would do so, in my opinion, because it's a lot that comes with bringing Israel onto the table.
That would be stupid.
Of the AU.
And then the Africans are treated like trash.
Yeah.
And
in
Israel. Yeah, that'd be dumb.
Yeah. So I would say that that's likely not to happen. Definitely.
Let's see here. What else we got here? Also, credit. Someone's asking about credit in Africa. I mean, pretty much just really, well, South Africa is somewhat different because the system's similar to America. But for most part in Africa, cash is king.
Cash is king. Cash is king every day. Cash is king. But in case, since you were talking about PayPal PayPal actually was created for South Africa, or the non-banked community of Africa. Elon Musk and I think one or two other partners, created PayPal because of the terrain in Africa. It's not like here where every 3 steps there's a bank or an ATM, but in the more densely populated areas and the roads and all back then at that time, it was just easier to create and strengthen mobile banking. And mobile everything, to me, is stronger in Africa right now than it is in the United States. Most people do more through a mobile device in Africa than we do here in the US. So
everyone who's thanking me for the videos, you are welcome. All I ask is, if you're not super chatting, the least you could do is just share, subscribe, like the videos. Just get the word out there, put the content out there. That's all I ask for. Post it on your Facebook pages, Instagram, Twitter. You know, just share the content. That's all I ask if you're not super chatting. So we can continue to grow the platform.
Yes. So. And if you want to get in touch with me for Profile Africa, you can certainly contact me at info@profileafrica.org. Dinus may want to type that down there for me. info@profileafrica.org.
And also, if you want to go into what exactly you do at Profile Africa,
okay. Yes,
and people who are interested in.
Yeah. Okay. So Profile Africa is a brand strategy, public relations, business development, media agency. And one of the premier things that we do is help companies grow and go into Africa. And we look at your industry, to your capacity, to what you have to invest, to critical markets that have a need and demand for what you do, and some areas that are up and coming and just waiting for what you do to come in and help cause it to grow. Many places in Africa have great population growth, but they may not have the business that you do. So it's good also sometimes to be first in Africa, because the first person really collects the spoils and sets the trend, sets the tone for what occurs. But if you have a company and that you're interested in a company, a brand, a ministry, just anything that you believe you've been called to do in Africa and want me to give you some advice on that as well, definitely give me a shout at info@profileafrica.org. I'd be happy to share with you and guide you onto the best plan for doing business in Africa.
Shout out to Kellen Cash. Have you met Kellen before? Have you spoken to Kellen before?
Oh, Kellen. Hey, Kellen.
You know Kellen?
Yes.
Okay.
Give Jackie your bag. She will double it. Thank you, Kellen. Good to chat with you.
What do y'all think about France's president wanting a European army? I mean, that's kind of off topic, but whatever. Let's see here. Listen, there are 46 million blacks and only 300 in this chat. This is because most blacks are hesitant. Okay, so the black people, and we've kind of spoke on this already, but black Americans or the diaspora who are hesitant about Africa, what will be your rally?
I'm still saying go see Africa. I'm still saying that because, first of all, I'm trying to understand what the danger is when we can't even do anything in America without being called on by the police while washing your car, or whatever,
or sitting in your apartment in Dallas, and the police officer accidentally goes to the wrong door, kicks it down, and kills you.
Right. Or, go to a movie theater and get gunned down, or the weight room, or anywhere, USA. So I'm not really sure what the hesitancy would be about, especially with just such ongoing commitment of myself and others that have these amazing stories. I think sometimes Black people have been programmed to have a deaf and dumb spirit when it comes to Africa. I'm still saying it's from slavery. So if we could just start listening to those of us who are out there, who have done it, who's doing it, who's succeeding. Goin
Davis says, breathing while black.
Yeah, really. It's so sad, but very true, which is all the more reason why you should be looking at Africa, because if that's how things are in 2018, I wonder where is it going to be 2022, 23, 24,
right?
And so if you don't start looking towards Africa right now, you're very likely not to be able to keep up with the pace, because Africa is winning and it's growing and it's booming right now. So for every day you're not there, you're not involved in the African agenda, it's going to be even that much harder to get in and succeed, or to get your things going and off the ground. So it's going to be important to take a look at getting in now. It's always about the now and not later, because things are growing and changing rapidly. And I really just suggest, if I hadn't started my business and getting involved 13 years ago, and I met someone who was really enthused and they've got experience and have lived there, done that, I would be ready to go. like tonight and say, okay, I'm committed. Because just looking at the community around us, I don't say that it offers a bright future.
Oh yeah, someone asked in the chat room, do you think the situation in America is going to get better?
No.
And you mentioned the stock market. Do you think
it's definitely on the crash? I'm 100% convinced. And I also say that even if you're in the market and you're making good money, it's still and could be worth making good money here and there. Even PayPal has done some amazing things in the market the last 6 to 9 months and been great investment. But it's something to not even sleep on and keep an eye on, because you can go to bed rich and literally wake up poor. The volatility is so intense in the market that you could really literally wake up rich. I mean, go to bed rich and wake up poor. So it's important to definitely keep an eye on the market if that's the field you're playing in, but know too that it will be crashing, and that you do need to diversify your money and be putting it in other safer places that have a huge growth potential and long trajectories. And clearly Africa has that.
Tanisha, thank you for the super chat. Make sure you email me so I can send you a postcard. So search for uhuru@gmail.com and I'll send you a postcard out. See what else we got here. North America is home to a lot of us, but the surreal feeling you get once you touch down Africa is unexplainable. I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's always life-changing to me. My soul and my inner person has just evolved so much by being in Africa that my entire life in America didn't give me that.
Right.
And so I believe that every time you go, you're receiving something spiritual, as well as a greater understanding of what to do next and how. And I really believe that. And good for whoever wrote that. Whomever said that.
It was Mike Alawale. I think he said that.
Good. Yeah, because I was sharing with someone that without a shadow of a doubt, Africa will awaken your spirituality. And,
yes, absolutely.
And it's just no way you're going to do business successfully in Africa, carnal minded and all single minded. No, it's not like that. You're going to have to know from within. You're going to have to be able to listen from within and then obey what happens inside in order to effectively succeed and win in Africa. 100%.
Oh, so you could probably answer this. I want to know the cost of living in Africa, particularly South Africa, and how much to buy a house either in Johannesburg, Durban, or Cape Town.
Well, all three of those markets, Joburg, Durban, and Cape Town, are very different.
Right.
But I think it's more what your budget is for purchasing a home, like whatever dollar amount you have. There are beautiful communities in all three cities that could probably fit your budget. And when you ask what the cost of living is, well, it varies on different scales. I was just showing Dinus a beautiful place, and that was going to be with furniture and everything that you saw as well, and not just a empty apartment. But anyway, it just depends on your budget. We have high end to where people are paying 25 to 30,000 rands a month, and you can divide that by 1425 and know what the dollar value is. Or you can get a starter place, which is like a 1 or 2 bedroom that's furnished for about 10, 12,000 rands a month. Or you can get an unfurnished apartment for about 7 to 9,000 rands a month. And depending on what market you're in and what your currency is, but if you're coming from the dollar market, a 7,000 rand a month apartment is not even $1,000. It's really about $600 or $700 a month. So it just really depends on your budget, and it could be a quite nice place too.
And then in Nigeria, my good friend is renting a 3-bedroom, 2 bath, or 3-bedroom, 3-bath duplex. He's in a duplex, 3-bedroom, 3 baths to himself for $800 for the year.
The year?
For the year.
Good Lord. That's amazing.
For the year. and it's cool. Like it's
Right.
cool. Like it's, you know.
Well, now I don't know. You know, if these are ladies wanting to inquire, you know, men can live under a bridge and it'd be just totally fine with them. But the queen, no, darling. I like very, very nice things. So, but I would pay. Personally, I would pay up to 30,000 rands a month for a beautiful, palatial place with a view and beautiful furniture. And that comes out to not quite $2,000 a month. And you can't find that anywhere in America. High rise, furnished, beautiful, you know, A-grade buildings, state-of-the-arts technology. I mean, just all the bells and whistles for 30,000 rands a month. You're not going to find that anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. $800 for the year. 3 bedrooms, 3 baths.
We need to see pictures of that.
It's decent. I mean, it's cool. I mean, you know, you could do you could do some upgrades. I mean, but it's cool.
It's a brew pad.
Yeah.
It's a cool brew pad. But yeah, so it just really depends on your budget. I think I always say your budget dictates what you can and cannot do and where. You know, in Joburg, you can go from the highest end places that look like palaces to places that look like, you know, you just got started in life. So it's about what you can afford. It really is. But it will take less dollars to live well across Africa and even in South Africa than it will to live at that same level here in the United States. You will be paying 3 times and 4 times as much here in America to live exactly like that in Africa.
Kofi wants to know, have you met anybody from the Blacks Without Borders documentary?
Yeah, actually, those guys contacted me way long ago when I first entered Africa. I haven't met them in person, but I talked to them. And this was so early on. I really should reach back out to those people and say hi, because what are they doing now? Does anybody know? I
think one lady's here in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
She's based out here in Atlanta.
So many people that I've met that have even become my clients, when I want to find out how did you get started in caring about Africa and starting to feel a connection. And so many people told me about
the Blacks Without
Borders. And I know the people in the film, but I hadn't met the people who did the film.
Okay.
But yes, I know several of the people in the film, Eugene Jackson and many others in Joburg and Durban. And what I want to say thank you to the executive producers of that for is because, Dinus, they were telling this story before you and I ever even got started, baby. They were telling this story when it was black. I mean, in total darkness.
Right.
They were like the only little beacon of light telling the world a little something about Africa. And I even share this with my clients because many of them are new to the Africa space. I always say when you go to Africa and you meet older African Americans who may have gone to either South Africa or some other country at the beginning of where there was a little light that there could be an opportunity, but it wasn't ripe yet, you know, and it was a total brown field that they thought they could make green. So they may have worked an incredibly long time before they saw fruit that they still may themselves have never seen, but they did what they did so that you and I could safely engage with Africa as what I have done to ensure that others could safely engage. Pay those people some respect, y'all. Let me tell you, when you meet people who have been 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years in Africa, I don't care if you don't even like them or get what they're doing. Respect their journey. Respect their ability to sustain and still be there, or respect their hustle even. Whatever it's taken for them to remain in Africa, because as an African American back then when those folks got started, because a lot of African Americans or several left America and even ran to South Africa just at the very beginning of the end of apartheid.
Right, apartheid.
And then nobody was studying nothing they had to say.
Right.
White people still was used to the apartheid way and was terrified because, ooh, now black people can walk the streets at night.
Right.
And so there was no opportunity to just go and get or even one to even make. So those people, when I see gray-haired African Americans in Africa, they're kings and queens to me.
Right.
You know, I bow, I sow into their lives because they didn't get to eat the fruit, y'all. They didn't get to eat the fruit because there was none to be planted and then harvested. So sow into those people, thank them, and give them some respect, because it is them who has made it possible for even me to have gone 13 years ago and for me to be able to sustain myself there, as well as pave the way for others and have people like Dynas to be able to successfully and safely travel through Africa and have amazing experiences. So we must pay those people some respect and remember that they came long before opportunities were ripe, and thank them for what they've done for us, because they seeded into our future. So we must give back and pay some respect.
I think you already dealt with this question. We've gained nothing for over 400 years from Africa. All we wanted was acceptance, and still can't get that. What are your?
I say we are being accepted. I think that the message about the bringing the diaspora back to Africa as the sixth region of the continent, I believe that still has to get out. That's an important message that still has to be told on a continuous basis, that it becomes part of our, like we have a Black national anthem. We need to be continuously telling that story so that people who feel like that can begin to change their mind and heal, because that I can tell you 100,000% that is what needs to happen still. Just the same as even here in America. You know, when South Africa ended apartheid, they had this document called the Truth and Reconciliation Agreement, and it involved the apartheid regime sitting across from Madiba, Nelson Mandela, and the ANC, and freedom fighters acknowledging, you know, former apartheid regime, acknowledging what they did during apartheid and apologizing, because that's the only way reconciliation can happen, is when truth comes in front of it. Okay. And America never reconciled slavery. So that's why we're all still talking about it. That's why we're all still experiencing elements of it, because you don't just blow the whistle and call it over and quit when you didn't even repent for what all just went down for 400 years. You know, you didn't even give us any retribution back from that. So we weren't ever put back on proper footing, you know, as a result of slavery. So this thing is never going to end until that occurs, because that's the only way there was not bloodshed in South Africa as a result of the ending of apartheid, when it could have been a huge civil war that could have, in essence, still been going on today, because it was just 20 years ago, you know? So that's the issue. And until that can happen, even in America, then that's why sometimes, you know, you can't hear when other elements of reconciliation has gone forward. It's gone forward from the African Union and from the Pan-African Parliament. Believe me, I was there on May 25th, 2012 in Johannesburg at this huge Pan-African diaspora healing ceremony. And it was amazing when they declared the sixth region. I mean, the diaspora is the sixth region of the continent of Africa. And people were crying and weeping and wailing, but that message hasn't fully gotten out yet. And until it does, people are going to feel that way.
And then last question, and then we'll close out. This and we talked about this before, looking for a job when you go to Africa or coming as an entrepreneur? You want to expand on that because it was brought up in the chat room.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you ever go back into the other shows that I have done with Dynas, my message has always been that Africa has risen and is open for business, not employment. Because as an African American, you should not be going to Africa looking for a job. You should be going to create an opportunity for yourselves and others, period. Because you're leaving a 4% unemployment market to now go to what could be 35, 40% unemployment. And many of these countries like South Africa are just starting to have double-digit growth and the ability to create jobs in that country. And so the people who have lived there, the indigenous people who have lived there and oppressed and without lots of money, lots of opportunity for years and years, their whole life, they want to get their lives on go. And we should give them that opportunity. So if you need a job, stay here in America. It's 4% unemployment. You can have 3 jobs if you want to. And even if you don't need it, you could just want it. I remember in my 20s, I worked a couple of jobs and I had a great career, but I wanted a red sports car. Right. And I wanted to go to the Bahamas and I wanted to go to Jamaica and I wanted to travel. So I got another job, and it was during the time of our lives, never mind who was president at the time, but we were experiencing 4% unemployment. So I didn't need a second job. I just got one because I could. So you can get 3 jobs in America if you want to. Don't go to Africa looking for a job, but for sure, go and create an opportunity for yourselves and others. That's how you win with Africa. That's how you get in step with Africa. And that's how you be a part of Africa's continual growth story.
All right. So, Jackie, we'll go ahead and close out. Anything you want to share in closing? The platform is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I just want to say that 2020 is way less than 20 months from now. And if you want to be a part of where Africa is going and growing, I highly suggest that you start making a plan to engage opportunities to do business in Africa. Say nothing about Africa that you haven't experienced. Don't repeat other people's stories about Africa. Go there and create your own story. And I can assure you it will be a beautiful and bright one, because Africa has risen and is open for business. And we want to make sure that you know Africa and that Africa knows you.
And how can everyone reach you, contact you?
You can contact me at info@profileafrica.org.
And what's your website?
profileafrica.org.
Okay.
Or you can even give me a call at 212-470-1853.
All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Again, everyone who super chatted, make sure you email me so I can send you your postcard. So again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Somebody said your site's not working.
It should be.
Hold on.
profileafrica.org.
Yeah. It's working. It's working.
Yeah.
Here's the website.
Oh, and guys, on November the 18th, which I believe is next Friday. Did they see it? Yeah, November the 18th. Thank you, Dave Trend. I don't have my glasses on. Mr. The Trend Brandon. He says I'm beautiful. Thank you very much. But next Friday, whatever that date is, I think it's the 18th, I am going to be recasting Profile Africa's brand across all social media platforms, from Twitter to Facebook to our website, as well as Twitter and Instagram, everything. We're going to come boldly, even on YouTube. We're going to have our own channel. Very excited, really looking forward to that and being able to share more about the different avenues of how to engage business and do well and just be in the know. You need to be in the know because in a very short period of time, Africa is going to be on the lips of everybody and everybody's going to want to know what to do next and how. Well, stay tuned. Profile Africa will be right here to give you everything and all the information you need to know. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Anytime.
And I look forward to keeping in touch with everybody. Give me a call.
All right, everyone. Till next time, Dynasty Mirror Search for Who and Jackie Johnson from Profile Africa. Peace. I can figure out. Give me 1 second. But I'm trying to log out. I can't even find a.
So did you post your
hold on, it's not. We're still live.
Oh.
I'm just trying to find the screen to log in. Here we go. Bam. All right, everyone. Peace.